Okay, in this video we'll be talking about positive and negative numbers. Now basically a negative number is a number that's below zero, and that's about it. I mean, these are the numbers we're familiar with, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. They're like they're called the counting numbers. But when we've got these numbers, when we go below zero, and we have -1, -2, -3, etc. Then these numbers, basically what these numbers are with a sign, they're called integers. And so basically any number that's below zero, we say it's a negative number. Now if we look at our number line, if we're going this way to our left, the numbers get smaller. When we go this way to our right, the numbers get larger. Now let's have a look. Is 5 bigger than 4? Yes. What about, is 2 bigger than 1? Yes, it is. But what about, is -2 bigger than -1? From -1 we've gone to our left to -2. No, -2 is smaller than -1. So yeah, I mean, this is a very quick introduction to number lines and positive and negative numbers. The other thing to note is, so when we're writing, for example, our integers, the sign goes on the left hand side. So here's 1. Now we can write that we can write 1, positive 1, with the symbol there, with the sign of positive. Sorry, that looks like a. So yeah, that's a positive 1. I know we don't when we're writing positive numbers, we don't have to write the sign. So if you notice on the positive side of the number line, there's no sign written down. So what that basically means is that the number without there's no positive here. It means the same thing as the positive. So 1 just means the same thing as positive 1. So here, let's say 2, negative. So -2. There's the sign, and there's the integer. Then there's the sign. But what about 0? Is that? I mean, that's on our number line. Does that have a sign? There's no sign. Do we assume it's positive? No. Well, the thing about 0 is that it's neither. So a zero is neither positive or negative. Yeah. So 0 is unsigned. And that's about it really for a quick introduction. So basically when we go to our right, the numbers are getting larger. When we go to our left, the numbers are getting smaller. Okay, here's a topic that's related to positive and negative numbers. If a question asks, find the opposite of a number, of our integer, let's say 3, well, basically the opposite is just basically it's just like a reflection from 0, from 3, onto the other side, of the number line. So if we've got 3 and we wanted to find the opposite of 3, it's just -3. So we've got 3 there, and the opposite will be -3. What about the opposite of -4? Basically it's a reflection on this side, so -4 there. It'll be 4. It's very easy. So what would be, let's say, what would be the opposite of 5? It's simple, it would be just be minus 5. What about the opposite of minus 100? What would be the opposite of that? Simple, it will just be 100. You just add on, you just swap the signs basically when you're doing the opposites. Slightly different question that's related to it is what would be the opposite of, let's say A. What would be the opposite of A? Simple, you just write down negative A. What would be the opposite of negative B? Simple, it would just be B. Or remember, if there's no sign, there, it means positive. So B means positive B as well. And that's it. It's a very simple. There's a related topic to positive and negative numbers is finding the opposites. Okay, another related topic is absolute values, and again this is very simple. It's just telling what it is just the distance from 0. For example, when we've got negative numbers, let's say we've got negative 3, and we want to find the absolute value. That all that's saying is what is its distance from, what is the distance of negative 3 from 0? So it's 1, 2, 3. So it's what we're thinking about is magnitude and not direction here. So so the distance from 0 of negative 3 is 3. And it's very simple. When you've basically got a negative number, you just so let's say I want to find the absolute value of minus 100. When we write the we draw these vertical bars across it like that, vertical straight lines, and just take away the negative. So it's 100. What would be the absolute value of 3? Again, there's no negative there, and it's just the number itself, so it's 3. What would be the absolute value of 5? Again, it's very simple. It'll just be the number 5. That's it. Okay, let's use our number line to add and subtract some numbers. How would we do minus 3 plus 1? So we've got minus 3 here, and remember when we're adding a positive number, we're basically going to our right. So minus 3 plus 1, so we go to our right, is minus 2. Okay, what about minus 4 plus 6? So we're minus 4 here, so we go to our right 6 times, so for minus 4 it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So the answer is minus 4 plus 6 is 2. Okay, here's some more questions. How would we do minus 1, negative 1 minus 3? So negative 1 is here, so minus 3 means we're going to our left, so it's 1, 2, 3, so it's minus 4. What about 0 minus 1. So we start at 0 and we go to our left one, yeah, and we end up with minus 1. Okay, what about 2 minus 4? How would we do that? So we've got our 2 there, so minus 4, we'll go to our left 4 times, so that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we stop at minus 2. Okay, let's come on to something a little bit more complicated. Now well, in our previous examples we didn't do a question like, how would we do 5 minus negative 3? Now before we come on to this, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at this question. So we've got the number 5 here. What is the sign of 5? Is this number, now we've got here, let's look at this number here. Is this a positive number or a negative? Is this a positive number or a negative number? Well, there's nothing on to its left. So there's no sign here on the left. So we say that 5 is positive. So we've got a positive 5 there. Now it gets a little bit confusing, because now we've got to understand two things. Now what this is saying is it's 5, positive 5, minus or take away or subtract. So this bit here, this is the operator. We're like, for example, are we taking away, are we subtracting, minusing, or are we adding? So that's our arithmetic operator here. But now here we come on to the sign of, now this symbol here is the sign of 3 here. So we've got our 3 here, and now there's something to its left, and it's a negative number. So 3 is a negative 3, and this is the operator. That's saying it's positive 5 minus negative 3, and that's so that this number here is the sign of our integer here. So now when we see the operator and the sign, when they touch, you've just got to follow these simple rules. So our expression here, so we've got a negative symbol and a negative symbol for the sign of our number. So if we look at our little diagram here, we've got a negative. When a negative and a negative, when they touch, they come together, they transform into a positive. So basically what we do is we can rewrite this. So 5 take away or minus negative 3 becomes 5, because as this diagram shows, a negative and a negative, when they touch, becomes a plus. So what happens is we write 5 plus 3, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, which is 8. So what's happened here is that we've got an operator and we've got a sign. We've got a sign here, sign of the number, and what's happened is when they've touched, they've become they've transformed into an operator of add. So it's become 5 plus 3, which is equal to 8. We'll explain this in more examples. Okay, let's do another example. So now we've got, how would we do this? We've got 3 plus negative 2. Now, one thing I should note is that when we've got something like this, usually you'll see little brackets like that around the negative number. Basically, it helps so you can see the difference. So here, so we've got here. This is the operator, and this is the sign of our, and this is the sign of our negative number. So what have we got here then? So we've got 3. Is this so what is the sign of our 3? There's nothing here, so that means 3 is it's a positive 3. There's the operator. We're adding, and now we've got we know what this is. This is a 2, and it's a negative 2. So we've got a negative 2. So it's 3 add negative 2. Now, so let's look at our symbols here. We've got a plus here, and we've got a negative here. Now they're touching. So what happens when they touch? Let's see. We've got a plus here, and yeah, we've got a minus. So when they come together, they become a minus. So here we've got so this, we can rewrite this. We can rewrite 3 plus negative 2 as, so it's 3 a plus and a minus. When they come together, they become a minus. As 3 take away 2 is equal to 1. So basically what this is saying is that 3 add negative 2 is the same as 3 take away 2, which is equal to 1. Here's another quick example. How would we do negative 5 plus negative 3? Now, so let's look at the 5. Now we know that the sign of this number is negative. So that's it's negative. So that's negative 5, and it's being added to negative 3. That's the operator, which is add, and the sign, and that's the sign of this number here, 3. It's negative 3. So now looking at our diagram again, we've got, now the thing is, this sign here, the sign of this 5, it's not touching anything, is it? Only our operator, the sign of our operator, and the sign of this number, only these two are actually touching. We can say they're touching. This here is it's not touching anything. So we can ignore this. We can leave that as negative 5. But let's look at these two symbols here, the operator add and the sign of this number, negative 3. So as we did previously, so a plus and a minus. So we've got a plus and a minus. They become a minus. So we simply rewrite this. We rewrite negative 5 add negative 3 as negative 5. Remember, that's unchanged. That wasn't touching anything, and we didn't involve this in anything, so it's unchanged. So it's minus 5. Sorry, it's negative 5 A plus and a minus becomes a minus, so it's negative 5 minus 3, or take away 3, or negative 5 take away 3, which is negative 8. You can obviously, when you've got a question like this, when you can write it in this form, you can use a number line, or you can use techniques to add positive and negative numbers, which we'll explain in a later example. But yeah, the point of this was, of this example, was to include a negative number here, and to show that we don't involve it here. We only look at the signs that that are sort of touching like that. Okay, here's a different example. This time we're not using numbers, but we're using letters. So how would we rewrite A plus negative B? Simple. We've got so we've got a positive and a negative touching each other, so it becomes positive and a negative. So it becomes a negative. So we just write A, take away B. That's it. How would we do this one? Negative X add negative Y. Again, remember, that's not touching anything. The sign of the X is not touching anything, so that's a negative X. That's the operator, and that's the sign. This is the sign of our letter Y. So we've got a positive and a negative touching each other. So positive and a negative again touching each other becomes a negative. So we simply rewrite that as negative X take away or minus Y, and that's it. Okay, here's another example. Let's see, how would we do 3 plus positive 5? Now notice how this is written. I've deliberately put a sign there. Now it should be obvious how we can rewrite this. So let's make a quick start. So let's see. So that's equal to 3 plus positive 5. Because if there's a sign there, it just means the same as 3 without the sign on the left hand side here. Okay, so now let's look at the signs that actually touch. So we've got now this time we've got a positive and a positive. So let's see, we've got a positive and a positive makes a positive. So that's equal to 3 plus 5, which is 8. So a quick summary of what we've learnt is that when we have signs touching each other, so basically if the signs are different, we get a negative, and then if the signs are the same, it transforms into a positive. So this is just a quick way of memorizing how when you have like the operator and the sign when they touch, and this is how how they transform into the positive or the negative. Okay, let's have a little bit more practice with what we've learned about the negative and positive signs. Now we've got a very simple expression here: 2 take away 3. How can we rewrite this using what we learned just previous? Let's have a look. So here's the operator, and that is a minus, or take away, or subtract. So now what we can do is we can say that 2 minus 3 is the same as 2 plus negative 3. So if you remember, what happens when a positive, what happens when when you add, when you plus, the plus sign and the negative or minus sign touch each other? A positive and the signs are different, so it becomes a negative. Yeah, so it becomes a. So here, what happens is that's the sign, and that's the operator. When they touch, we get a new operator of takeaway or minus. So that's how it transforms. So we can write. So basically, we can write. So a plus and a minus here becomes a minus. So that's equal to 2 minus 3. Okay, let's use the same example and see if we can rewrite 2 take away 3 in a different way. So this time, let's see, 2. This time we're going to do 2 take away positive 3. Now let's see if what we get with this. Do you remember what happens when a negative sign and a positive sign touch each other? Yeah, the signs are different, so it's going to be a negative. So what we can do is, so that becomes, so that's the takeaway or subtract operator, and that's the sign of our integer here, 3. So now when they touch each other, we get a negative. So it becomes 2 take away 3. So so when they touch, we get a new operator. It's a takeaway. So yeah, we've so in these 2 examples, we've looked at how basically 2 take away 3, 2 minus 3 can be rewritten as, so 2 minus 3 can be rewritten as 2 plus negative 3, or 2 minus positive 3. So this example was explaining how we can how our operator here, 2 take away 3, can be split up into these 2 kinds of ways. So a positive and a negative touch, and they both make a minus. So here, a positive and a negative touch, and they both make a minus. Okay, let's see how we can rewrite this one. What's negative 5 plus 2? How can we rewrite that? We can say negative 5. Remember, this sign isn't actually touching anything, so but here's the operator. How can we break this down? We can say negative 5. Remember, now we've got a plus, so negative 5 take away negative 2. And remember what happens? So you've got the takeaway or subtract operator here and the sign, and when they touch, a negative, so a negative and a negative. Now this time the signs are the same, so what happens? It becomes a positive. So it's negative 5. That turns into a positive. So that becomes a plus. So it becomes a add. So 5 plus 2, and that's the operator. So what other way can we rewrite this? Let's have a look. So remember that the way to get a positive is by either 2 negatives or 2 positives. So it's -5 plus +2. Basically, this is the same thing as saying this anyway. So yeah, there's positive and positive touch, and they become a positive. So it's a -5 plus 2. Okay, using what we've learnt, let's see if we can rewrite this one. A take away B. So this time we're using letters. So there's the operator. Now it's a subtract or take away. So how do we get a takeaway? There's only 2 ways. Especially we need the different signs touching each other. So it's either A take away, that's the operator, positive B, and when they touch, it'll become a negative. Or the other way is A add. So A add. So what do we write here? Will it be a positive or a negative? It'll be a negative, so it'll be negative B. Yeah, so a positive and negative, so different signs, so both of these will all equal to A take away B. Okay, in this example, let's look at how the operator and the sign, how the sign and the operator are sort of changed when we rearrange when we rearrange the terms of our expressions here. So how could we now this time we're not going to break this down into, you know, the operator and the sign of the number. Now we're going to look at how we can rearrange these and how the sign and the operator are sort of related and how they transform. So so in this example, how can we rewrite 1 take away 2? How can we rearrange it? Excuse me. What was the sign of? So this number here is a 1. So what is the sign of 1? It's on the left hand side. There's nothing there. So that means it's a positive. So that's a positive 1. So now here we've got the operator here. So what happens now? Let's say if we can rewrite this as -2 plus 1. So now we can think of this here. What happens is the sign is the 2. The 2 here takes the sign that was on the left hand side. The operator that was on the left hand side also becomes the sign when we rearrange it. So that becomes -2 plus 1. So that was a +1. Right. So similarly, in this example, at the moment the sign of 5 is -5. That's the operator. So let's swap this around. How can we rewrite this? We could do. So remember, that's the sign. So it's -6. Take away 5. So here the sign becomes the operator, and the operator becomes the sign here. It seems a little tricky, but with practice, you know, we'll get used to it. So yeah, so -5 it is the same thing as. So minus 5 take away 6 can be it's the same as negative 6 take away 5. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So A take away B. How could we rewrite that using this approach? Now the sign of A is positive. There's no sign there, so that means positive. So now the operator here is take away. So B, when we're swapping this around, you take whatever's on the left hand side as a sign, so it becomes minus B. You can rewrite that as plus A. Okay, working on our previous examples, let's see if we can juggle this around. Let's rewrite this. So 1 plus 2 take away 3 take away 4. Remember the sign is on the left hand side, so here that one is a positive. That's the operator, but remember it can also be the sign now when we're rearranging these terms. So let's write this in reverse order. So minus 4. So here the takeaway operator has become the sign of the number 4. Remember, it's always on the left hand side. So minus 4. So this one is negative. This one is a minus 3, a negative 3. So so what happens is we write that as minus 4 take away 3. That the operator stays the same. This one, the 2 is a plus. So remember, it's always on the left hand side. So plus 2. Now 1, the sign is on the left hand side. That's a plus as well. So plus 1. So we can say that 1 plus 2 take away 3 take away 4 is the same as negative 4 take away 3 add 2 and add 1. So this example was trying to show the relationship between the operator and the sign, and how one can transform into the other. So continuing on with this example, let's have another go. Let's rewrite it in another way. I don't know, let's start with 2. So 2, remember that the sign is positive, so here on the left hand side, so it'll be 2. We don't need to write the positive here, but the sign is positive then. Now let's see, so I've got the 2, let me choose 1 next. That's a positive again, so it's plus 1. Sign is on the left hand side. Okay, let me pick this one, minus 4. Now the operator is takeaway, so we can still write down takeaway 4. The sign is on the left hand side, and now we're left with 3, and the sign well, basically the operator is minus 3, so it's minus 3. So again, we can say that 1 plus 2 take away 3 take away 4 is also the same as 2, positive 2. Here the operator has become the sign. Basically, whatever's on the most left hand side here will basically be the sign. So 2 plus 1 take away 4 take away 3. So all of these will equal to the same value. Okay, using an example with letters now. So we've got negative A, add B, take away C. So let's see if we can juggle this around. So that's equal to So here, the left hand side, if we wanted to write C here first, its sign, the operator is negative here, take away, but the sign of C will be on the left hand side, so it will be negative C. Let's see if we do the next term we wanted was B. The sign is on the left hand side, it's positive, so it will be positive, so it will be add B and have A. The sign, so what is the sign of A? It is negative, so it will be negative, so we take away A. So here the sign has become the operator of take away. So yeah, this is an example of how we can, one way of how we can juggle this around. Let's see if there's another way. Let's start with, let's start with B. So the sign is positive on the left hand side, so it's B. Let's see. Let's be the next one. Let's make the next one C. So B, sign is on the left hand side. The sign of C is takeaway, so it becomes takeaway. And A here, and the sign is on the left hand side, and it's takeaway. So yeah, all of these, so negative A plus B takeaway C will be the same as negative C add B take away A, or B take away C take away A. So all of these three will give you the same value. Let's move back to our adding of positive and negative numbers. So now we want to look at a basic example using money. Let's say you've got £2 in your bank account, and the bank charges you £3, and how much? So basically you're left with -1 as the amount you've got in your bank account. So basically it's just saying, say for example, in this one here we can say to you're adding on a fine of -3. So when we say add it, so basically 2 take away 3 means the same thing as you've got 2 and you add on a fine of -3. So you were charged £3. You had £2 in your account and you were charged, you added on, so 2 add -3 makes -1, so you've got -1 left. Basically you owe £1. Yeah, so I mean it's the same way as saying that. So 2 take away a positive number, so you've got £2 in your account and you take away £3. Basically this is the same as that, and so is this, but well, it's the idea of adding on a negative number. You can think of it as saying let's add on a fine. So adding on a negative means you can think of it as adding on a fine. So yeah, so you're getting a negative value, so you get -1 here. Okay, continuing on with our money example, let's imagine a situation where you owe the bank £4, so you've got -4 pounds in your account, and you're given £3. Someone puts in £3 into your account. So basically we can say is, so -4, what this expression is saying is -4 take away, you can say that as -4 take away the debt of 3. So basically we can say is when we subtract a minus number, a negative number, sorry, it's like taking away a debt. So here you had -4 in your account, and you're taking away the debt of value of -3. So that becomes sorry, -3. So that becomes -4. It becomes the same as -4 plus 3, which is equal to. So you're left with. So your debt is reduced to -1. So when someone gives you £3 and you had a debt of £4, and someone gives you £3, you're left with -1. So now you owe the bank only -1. So it's the same way of here. So -4, add. Basically, you've got -4 in your account, and you add on a positive, make a plus, negative, make a plus as well. So that's the same. So it's the same thing. So it's saying -4, add 3, adding a positive number, will equal to -1 again. So in this example, we were trying to explain what happens, what it means by when we say take away. When we take away a negative number, it's like taking away your debt. It means the same thing as adding here, like adding a positive number, because the negative and a negative becomes a positive, and here positive and positive becomes stays a positive. So yeah, this is an example of using using money and debt to explain what we mean by when we take away a negative number. Here's a quick introduction of negative numbers and fractions. So when you have a fraction where the numerator or the denominator has a negative number, so here we've got -1/2. Basically, we can say it's the same. We can it's equal to 1/-2, which is equal to -1/2. So basically, if there's a negative number on the top or the bottom, what we do is we write down the fraction as we write the sign of the fraction here, just right in the middle. So we can say it's -1/2. So for example, let's say we had 1/2 plus 1/-4. How would we rewrite this using this example? So we can say that's equal to a half, or 1/2. So now remember that's a negative there, so add negative 1/4. So it's just like using our integers, but now that's the sign of the fraction, negative. So it becomes, we write it in the middle like that of the fraction. So that's the sign of the fraction, and that's the operator, add. So 1/2. So now it's the same thing. So we've got a plus and a minus touching, and they make a minus. So basically, we can rewrite this as. Basically, we can rewrite that as 1/2 half, take away, so that becomes the operator, take away 1/4. So yeah, that's how we can. So that was a brief introduction of the signs if you have a numerator or denominator with a negative number, and how you rewrite it with the sign in the middle, and it's basically the same kind of thing with our other numbers. And so when the signs touch, they change into whatever, the positive or the negative, or take away or add operator. Okay, here's another quick look into into negative and positive values in algebra. So here we've got negative x is equal to 5. So what does this mean, negative x is equal to 5? Basically it's saying negative 1 x is equal to 5. So that is, it's just like we say x is the same as 1x. The letter, we can say that the negative x is the same as negative 1x. So yeah, to find what the value of x is, you just sort of divide it. So x is equal to 5 divided by negative 1, which is equal to minus 5. So yeah, this example is trying to explain what, if you have something like negative x, what does it actually mean? So it just means negative 1. Okay, now we're going to do a quick method of how to add and subtract without using the number line. And basically it's a method that uses absolute values. And now what I want you to consider is, if you look at these two numbers, so that's negative 2, for this method you have to consider that the left hand side, just take that as the sign of the number here. So you've got 5 there. I know this is an operator, but consider this as the sign as well. So consider this as positive 5, and this as, obviously that's negative 2. So what you do basically is, if we take our two numbers, so we've got a negative 2 and we consider this as a positive 5. Look at the left hand side. Let's do the absolute. Let's find the absolute value. So we just write the little bars there, and obviously when we find the absolute value, that becomes a 2, and that becomes a 5. That stays as a positive, of course, and that the negative sign is removed, and that becomes a 2. So what you do then is, basically you see which is the bigger value after you've done the absolute value. So after, you look at what is the biggest value. So here the bigger value is 5. I mean, I know positive 5 and is bigger than minus 2, but we're considering the numbers after we've applied the absolute value. So then we consider what the bigger number is. So we've got 5 and we've got a 2. So now what we do is we say that if the signs are different from the original question, so we've got a minus 2 and we've got a plus 5. So obviously the signs are different of our two values. You take away the bigger from the smaller, so you take away the biggest value from the smallest value, and what you do is you keep the final answer will have the sign of the biggest value. So basically what you do is this is our biggest value after we've done the absolute value thing, and the answer will keep the sign of whatever the biggest value we found here would be. So we'll keep, our answer is going to be positive, because the biggest value here is 5, and we'll keep the sign of that. I mean, I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but with a few examples we'll get the hang of this. So here the biggest value is, after we've done the absolute value, is 5, and the sign of that was positive. So all you do, you take away the bigger from the smaller, so you go 5 take away 2, which gives us 3. So there are, and it will be positive 3 because the biggest value here that we found was positive after the absolute value. So the answer is, so negative 2 plus 5 is 3. Okay, let's have another example. So let's do negative 5 plus 2. So we check the signs. So that's a negative, and the sign here of 2 here, we will take that as a sign, is positive. So the signs are different. So we know that we're going to be taking away the absolute value of 5, my negative 5 and positive 2. So we've got we've got a negative 5 and a positive 2, and we just do the absolute value. So what the absolute value of negative 5 is going to be 5, and the absolute value of positive 2 is going to be 2. Right. So now, now in this example we have the bigger value after we've done the absolute value is 5. I mean, even though negative 5 is smaller, we ignore that. What we've done is we find the biggest value after the absolute value has been applied. So the bigger value here is now 5, and the smaller value here is 2. So what we do, we take the bigger from the smaller, so it's 5. So it's simply 5 take away 2 is equal to 3. Now what we do is, remember, we keep the sign of the bigger value. Now the bigger value we found here was 5, and what was the sign? Of 5? It was a negative. So our answer is going to be negative. So what we do is our answer is going to be negative 3. So basically that's it. So the answer of minus 5 plus negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3.